Hello. So, when we last left off, the party had been in the midst of their attempt to acquire a blue harlequin flower for Elua, an associate of Clax, in support of his mission to take down Selnivan. The first approach to Elua's middleman, Francis, kind of raised some suspicions amongst the drug traders of the city, and the party scrambled to send that information up the chain on their way to the Elegant Rapier. But in the end, short version, Francis was alerted, sort of reasserted his cover, and a second attempt was made that day with Drauda and Mouse taking the lead. A meeting was set up between them and Athena of the Jade Mask, and after some negotiations and a mixture of negotiation, deception, and performance, Drauda was able to acquire the flower and return to the party. You all made contact with Elua and followed her into a storage shed in the Southern Heights district, and she spoke of the while preparing the Dream Mist ritual in sort of in an effort to destroy the evidence, right? They use the flower so it can't be tracked. She spoke of the elf's rise to Ventus and of sort of her plight in all this. And as she's in the final throes of preparing this Dream Mist ritual, she hopes to find a vision of a clandestine meeting between Selnivan and her associates in this place you are now. So in this moment, she is sort of brewing the tea powder that she had prepared through sort of an arcane incantation before. And you start to see like a blue mist sort of come off of the bowl that she's heating, and you can kind of tell that she's in the final throes of her preparation. So there still is some time for some questions if you'd like, but she looks like she's getting ready. She sort of looks at all of you and says, "So, as we discussed, we will be incapacitated during this process. Is everybody still okay with that?"
Yes.
Yep.
If we have to be...
She kind of nods and says, "It'll be good to have everybody's eyes on it, and well, we seem to make our way stealthily here, so hopefully all will be well." Well, she sort of turns up the heat on this sort of like makeshift kettle situation that she has. Like it's an oil lamp that is positioned under this bowl. And she begins sort of an arcane invocation of some kind, speaking words that you probably just recognize to be Elvish in this moment. And she sort of looks at you all and says, "Look at the mists and inhale them, and imagine yourself being in the bowl where the mists came from." And she turns up the heat to a degree where the water boils and vapor starts filling the room. And do you all inhale?
Look around cautiously at everybody and shrug my shoulders and put my snout down and take a whiff and try to imagine being in the bowl.
I'll try to imagine Aesop just like his giant body trying to fit in a very tiny bowl and how that could manage and work. And in that process, I'll just inhale the vapor in.
Assuming that nobody wishes to roll to resist a magical effect in this instance. You have the option to, but moving on. You feel your sort of consciousness fade away as you sort of inhale, and it's almost like your eyelids, like you close your eyes and your eyelids disappear. And as you start to see past them, you realize that all of the other objects in the room have disappeared as well.
Ready?
Ooh.
Your vision comes to as you observe this sort of larger woman who is sitting on a chair on a table that's sort of decorated with food in a setting that you were just in. This is the same shed without all of the sort of instruments and storage and whatnot. The windows are not boarded up in this one. They are sort of just wide open. And as you sort of you in this state of inebriation, you're almost like a floating wisp in this space. You can sort of observe it from any angle that you want, but you are sort of looking at this quiet scene of this woman sitting in the middle of the room. Now, as you role play the villains that you have all made for this encounter, you all know that these villains know that this woman's name is Asham. She is Selnivan's right hand. The door opens and Sean, your character walks through. If you would like to sort of introduce and describe your character.
All right, so as you see walk in, you see a forgive me, I'm going to sneeze here for one moment.
Bless you.
It's coming.
Look at the light.
Just in advance.
We're going to try. We're going to go for it. All right. So you see a forest gnome walk on in. He's dressed in nice green elegant robes, dressed very well, definitely somebody who comes from money, very affluent, carries himself as a proud man, kind of walks in with a quick step on into the room. Trying to think if there's anything else of note. Definitely seems to have some pouches around his waist, seems to be someone who is in a profession of some kind. Some stuff that more than likely Flint would recognize as some probably like alchemical pouches, some like a, I don't want to call it a bandolier, but a bandolier with like some small flasks on it.
You enter the room, and Asham, who you know, you've met, but you're not like best friends with or anything. Sort of like there's a moment of caution as she sort of scoots her chair back and then looks and sees that it's you. And then she just sort of snorts and scoots back in and says, "You're early."
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to see you as always. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. So he walks over to the other side of the table at the far end and sits down.
She says, "I didn't bring any step stools."
You're so funny because I've never heard anything like that before in my life. Like that's really original. You're so smart. Oh my goodness, you're hilarious. Let me tell you. When's everyone else getting here? I'm not that early.
She just sort of like snorts and then ignores you, and sort of like in this moment, she's not just sort of sitting at this table feasting before everybody arrives. She's sort of like sharpening a blade, just sort of casually in this space, and just sort of goes back to doing her business.
This guy just goes He doesn't touch any of the food, just kind of sitting there, kind of arms crossed, kind of glaring across the table, tapping his foot impatiently, just waiting for the others to arrive.
And I should say, you all know Asham, but you also will have all met each other by this point too. So what is your character's name?
Oh, my apologies. So I'm Grasian Quickdust, and I'll throw that in chat when we're done here.
Okay. I think I've set it up so that you can mouse over all the people in this scenario to get their names as well. But
oh, perfect.
Smart.
A few minutes pass, and the door opens. I imagine there's sort of a soft tap on the door before it sort of opens up to a crack, and you all see Millie's character.
Soft tap sounds about right. She is a very angular, very pale, so pale that her skin almost twinges of blue. Elven woman with silvery hair and brown eyes flecked with gold. She's wearing like a green Victorian governess's outfit with a seamstress belt that has a bunch of different tools hanging off by chains. But you can see that they are grafting knives, a magnifying glass, sample tubes, as well as a book. And as she enters the room, she'll just like respectfully tip her head a little bit in a small bow to each of the people already in the room.
Asham just sort of acknowledges you, but then doesn't seem to pay you any mind.
Ah, Bryn, good to see you. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. You can go ahead and have a seat here. Yeah. How you been? I hope you're doing well.
Bryn Striana, please. Thank you.
Come on, Bryn. It's all good.
Asian. She will side-eye you and sit down next to you disapprovingly.
It's not going to come into play too much. You guys do have control of your tokens, I believe. This entrance, I don't quite know how to describe. So Jacob, I'm going to let you sort of describe.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much. Next, walking into the room, you see someone dressed entirely in a crisp white, like robe suit situation. Very formal, gleaming, almost uncomfortably light, bedecked in green trim. It looks intentionally perhaps too big for him. Maybe he's has some things going on underneath, but you do not know. All of this to say, that would not be the thing that strikes your attention first. The thing that would grab your eye is this man is wearing like what can only be described as a grotesque mask. Bulging red eyes, a hooked nose, the curl of a mustache perhaps, some horns that feel otherworldly in some way. And upon entering, cocks one leg forward, bends the other, rolls his wrists down, and bows like fully at a 90-degree angle. And then cocks his head and says, "Hello."
You cut out. Cocks his head and what?
It cocks his head and just goes, "Oh, hello." So yes, his name is Brigella.
And Asham, there's a similar look of recognition, but just sort of like a changing it up again, I see.
You see, I think this person really only moves in extremely fluid or extremely angular motions. And you see the neck kind of like snap up into the side, then pondering, like exaggerated gesture, like thinking, almost like the thinker statue, and just go, "I have to keep things fresh, don't I? It's good to see you all again."
I would kind of describe this is from my perspective. You confirm it for me. Like these moves are highly performative or alien, somewhere between.
Yes.
And one characteristic I don't recall, is this like a face mask or is it a sort of like helmet situation? Like, is there anything showing in the back?
More of a face mask.
Okay. Is there like hair worn in the back, or what does that look like?
I think it would be, yeah, there's probably some like dark matted hair that kind of almost blends in so that you cannot see the strap of the mask.
Okay. Where would you like to sit?
I think, given that Ashim perhaps gave him the least warm greeting, I think he would move to sit directly across from our dear friend Greyjen. Just go, oh, it's been too long. How are you, Greyjen?
Apologies. Yes, it's been a while. How have you been? You been staying out of trouble? You seem well. You seem well.
Don't I?
I can't tell with that bloody mask, but I think I imagine you're doing well.
I'd imagine the same for you.
Oh, I'm always doing well. Well, there's some problems, but yes, all in all, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Problems, Bryn. Do you know of these problems, Bryn?
She once again just scowls at you. Bryn Striana. It's only 2 more syllables.
Upon getting corrected, a very over-exaggerated, so sorry, and then fully bow, like smashing mask head into the table.
No problems on our end.
Asham leans, like, puts the sword on sort of the side of the table and leans in to Greyjen and says, "Problems?"
Do you have any idea how hard it is to get good labor out in the middle of freaking nowhere? Do you have any idea? Do you know how many of them have died because they're not paying attention to what they're supposed to be doing? And then do you know how hard it is to get more labor in there? It's a challenge. I'm running a full crew all day now, and I can't keep them up and running.
Perhaps more leadership is required.
Well, if you guys weren't dragging me into these meetings all day, do you ever think about that? I could be on site, making sure everything's running more smoothly. But no, dragging me all the way in here, taking care of this stuff. Not to mention, I still...
Perhaps it's a you problem.
Perhaps it is. Asham sort of looks at you seriously and says, "You are well compensated. You should know how to do your job."
Sorry. Did I have you guys seen any supply disruptions? Has anything stopped moving? I don't think so. I'm just here to tell you my frustrations with what's going on. Yeah? You guys ever think about all the stuff I have to deal with? Have you thought about what it is to do with the precipitate after you're done mixing all this stuff? Have you? No, none of you give me any thought of that at all. Kind of hops and kind of sits in his chair and kind of turns a little bit away from each other and just mumbles under his breath.
As Greyjen is mumbling, you hear kind of like a comfortable laughter of 2 figures who are approaching from outside. As you see, I'm trying to unstealth people. As you see 2 more individuals walk in, one whom you're familiar with, the good old Mistress in Red, walking side by side with her good friend, who Eric can introduce.
Right. Suppose we're walking in clearly a bit comfortable with each other. And this is Garnet, a red dragonborn, very, just decked out to the nines, very elegantly dressed, long dark coat, holds kind of a sort of short cane with a like crimson gem on the top of some sort. Lots of jewelry. Sort of shirt is very like lots of gold filigree and things, and a large set of wings that just are draped over him and kind of hooked in the front, just more like a cloak or a cape than anything else.
And as you're both walking into the room, it's, the vision doesn't sort of explain the conversation that happened outside, but it's, you sort of hear Selny Vaughn sort of just going, "Garnet, it is always a pleasure.
Likewise.
Oh, I see most everybody is here.
Guess we're late.
Rachel's just still kind of pouting, just kind of looks over her shoulder, gives a nod.
She just sort of suddenly nods to you, Garnet, and just sort of starts walking around the table to take her position.
Garnet kind of carefully looks at the table and then sits down next to Ristrana.
Selmy passes Brigella. Brigella, like almost a la a butler, is like trying to make themselves as small as possible to give her the easiest access to the head of the table.
As she's walking in, she's kind of giving everybody like a polite nod, like acknowledging folks in their presence here. She seems to be showing deference to all. Not deference, but some degree of respect, we'll say, to everybody who's here, and says, Asham, did you tell Master Krex that we are starting? And Asham just sort of like nods, and it's at that moment that you all sort of hear a knock on the door. And then there's just sort of like an exchange. You see, there's sort of an exchange of glances from Selny and Asham, whereas Asham just sort of nods and stands up to open the door. And you all can't really see past her frame in this moment, but she sort of acknowledges the figure at the other end of the door and says, "Come on in."
Thank you. Is my character token
sorry.
there?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unhide you. Yep,
No, you're fine. So, very plain, simple black robes. An elven man walks in, very young, dark skin, looks around the room. You can immediately tell he does not want to be here. Looks at Miss Selnavan, says, "Good evening." Barely making eye contact to just be polite, and then immediately looking away. Does not acknowledge the rest of you, and will just sit down at their seat.
And whereas she... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, apologies for being late.
It's fine. And as she says it's fine, it's very clear to some of you that it's less fine. Both in and out of the vision, you as the left stars and the people in the room, there's sort of like a politeness that she's sort of like biting her tongue as she says this. And she sort of huffs for a moment and says, "Well, to business then. You have all met each other. Please help yourselves." And she sort of shows her, just sort of like waves her hand in front of the already decorated table full of food. There's, it's not richly decorated like a noblewoman's feast or anything. And it's very clear to those observing the vision that this is still a shed. This is not like a noble's dining room. It's just been sort of set up for this meeting. And so the fixings of food are clearly not what a noblewoman of her stature would necessarily expect or want, but it has been arranged for all of the characters here. She says, "Well, I handpicked each of you because I know what you are capable of. You have been paid quite well, and our work to build out this business has been completed. Now the real work begins, and the first order of business is to run through the logistics one final time so that there are no misunderstandings." She sort of, as she's saying this, she's sort of moving her head around the room to look at each individual one of you and sort of try to catch your eyes as best as she can. I imagine for some of you it's harder than others. She says, the granular details of your individual operations are not important to me right now. I trust that you know what you are doing, but we must discuss what everybody in this room needs to know. She says, first things first. And you, as I want to say, you as characters who you're role-playing these villains, you've heard these things before. This is sort of a meeting where nobody wants to write anything down, so they're just running through it one more time. So none of this is a surprise to the character that you're role-playing. But she says, first, as you all know, Asham is leading the harvesting efforts down in the Nightmire. She and her team are responsible for collecting all of the red flowers down there, as well as mapping out where all of the blue flowers can be located. Once she harvests these flowers, starting with the red ones, she will have them sent to you, Grayson. You sort of nod in understanding, and she says, and she sort of like puts her hand in the air for you to sort of indicate your chance to speak, like to explain the steps in your step in the operation as you understand it.
Well, for those at this table who care at all about anything that we do here, like, we will take the raw material, and without getting into too many details here, because I'm sure most of you probably can't follow it anyway, we turn it into this wonderful vapor that we can then distribute as such. But it's a very painstaking process, and it's not easy. I don't think you guys really understand all the complexities that go into it. But again, I'll be quiet because nobody seemed to care about it earlier when I brought it up.
There's a soft sigh from Asham at the other end of the room, and Salnivan is just sort of like biting her teeth at the small bit of tension, and she says, "Of course, you are a very skilled person, Grayson, and we trust you to take care of this. And from there, I believe, Brigella, where should they pick up your vapor product, Grayson?"
The multiple little setup we have down out there. It's up in the Stratus Wilds. I'll make sure I get someone to runner sent over to Brigella so they know where to go.
Very good. Well, that brings us to the next step of the operation. Brigella, would you care to explain how you'll be handling storage?
It would be a pleasure. As we all know, storage for a commodity such as this is not so simple a task. Therefore, storage must be secure, one must hope. And what's the best way to keep a location secure? Well, to keep moving it. Therefore, if one wants any product, just come by the carnival at any point, and I'm sure I would be happy to help you get some. And you see the mask, almost as if it were not solid object. This mouth hole curls up into a smile a little bit. And yes, if you need storage in any location, just simply put me in touch with whoever in position of power I might need to make sure the carnival can stay for a while. The citizens can pleasure themselves as much as they wish.
Selny sort of smiles softly and says, I believe that's where Master Krex comes in. And she sort of turns a little bit sharply towards Master Krex.
I'll receive the stare and try to fight back with a mean look of my own, and then failing, as she is a very intimidating presence, and kind of look down at the cup of red wine that I have and just say, well, with that, we then transport all the goods through my caravan company, and with the ever so gracious financial incomes that came from you, Miss Vaughn, we are now airborne.
Very good. She relaxes just a little bit and says, I believe that just to clarify one point for everybody here, once our good friend Bergella is able to store the goods, it will be up to Master Krex to identify the means to get those goods to brokers within the various towns and cities. Master Krex is not directly responsible for selling this product, but through his network and business, will ensure that it gets to these brokers so that they can sell it directly. Of course, Master Krex, I have several people in mind, and I will be happy to connect you.
Bow my head a little bit, just to make sure the products are on their way, to alleviate all of your fears, if you have any. I do sometimes protect goods on my own when necessary.
She nods.
I'll chug the my glass down and kind of not slam it on the table, but then put it down.
Selny sort of says, well, at that point, the business of this team is done when it comes to the red flowers. Trust that anything that has to do with money changing hands or the brokers has been taken care of. Among this group, no money is changing hands. The product is simply getting from point A, she sort of looks at Graygen, to point B, looks at Bergella, to point C, and then looks at Master Krex. Money will come to you through the normal means, but we just need to make sure that the product is moving. We cannot keep it all in one place, as you understand.
I do.
Graygen gives a nod.
Brings us to our second point of discussion. When Asham is and her team are harvesting the red flowers, they will also be mapping out the cavern system beneath the Nightmire to identify where all of the blue flowers are held. And she sort of turns her gaze towards Brinstriana. She turns her great gaze to Brinstriana and says, I believe that's when we'll be calling you in.
Of course. Iridesha of the Canthisia family requires exceptionally delicate care that, quite honestly, shouldn't be entrusted to people who haven't spent many hours studying its both history and cellular structure. take care of the flowers in their habitat and prepare them for harvest and transport.
During some of the scientific jargon, I don't think Prince Triana necessarily catches all of the looks of confusion around her, but Selny sort of nods and says, "Rest assured, we do respect the delicacy of your work. That's why you are being brought in. But we won't keep you there all the time. Asham needs to generally find or locate a good 10 or so of them before we'll be calling you in. Where, again, should we be able to find you?"
You can contact me at my shop in Flamebridge. If I'm not in, they know how to get a hold of me.
Very good. And as Prince Triana is able to prepare these very delicate flowers for transportation, I believe they will be brought by Asham's people to Garnet. And she sort of raises her arm towards you.
Correct. Yes. We'll be taking possession of those in... I'm realizing I don't know how to say the name of this town.
Propitious.
Propitious. Propitious. And from there we will distribute to some of my luxury traders. I think our clientele for these flowers has a little more high-end taste than the red flowers. Doesn't sound like our distribution of these will be much different than Master Crex. We will also be largely transporting these by air to our various shops.
There's sort of just a nod of acknowledgement from Selny, and she sort of says, "And that's the story. You all understand your role in this. Now's the last chance for questions, because after today, respectfully, I do not need to see any of you again. Until it becomes necessary."
Agent just gives a stink eye around the table at everybody. Careful not to stink eye Selny, but
I am looking down at the table, hand just kind of clenching, wanting to say something, but no questions.
Prince Triana will lean forward slightly and say, I understand the purpose of our operation here, but should we also be expanding our understanding of these products? What if there's a better way to use these two flowers other than turning them into vapor? A single plant can often serve a number of purposes.
She holds her hand up towards you to give you pause and says, "If you wish for a portion of your pay to be allocated towards flowers of your own that you can study, I'm sure we can make that happen."
Excellent. Thank you.
We'll work out the details later. Anybody else? She says it with an air of like wanting to end the meeting and sort of wanting the trust that everybody in this room knows what they're doing, and she's sort of just being polite by asking.
I think Brigella, as soon as she says, like, you don't need to meet again, I think head kind of sharply goes down, almost like giving like bad dog energy of like, oh no, like, why don't you need us? Looks up almost to raise a question, but decides not to.
Good. Well, now that you all know the details of this operation, I urge you to look around one final time. Each person in this room is capable of, or has the resources to kill each other. If you leak any part of this operation, you have 5 new enemies to worry about. I am not your friend, and you all know what I am capable of. Anyone who mentions my name, even by accident, will suffer from many, many sleepless nights. And then she sort of turns to Garnet and says, that goes for you as well, my friend.
I would expect no less.
She nods at everybody and then sort of stands up, kind of prompting everybody to stand up. And she says, you are free to leave. I look forward to doing business together.
Regent immediately is off his chair, and 2 little legs are pumping as quickly as he can to move towards the door, mumbling under his breath the whole way out. No appreciation, no clue what I actually do. They have no understanding what's actually going on.
And as you guys are all walking out, she says, Master Cracks, one moment.
I'll just bow, do a little bow, and stand by my seat as I wait for everyone to leave.
Yeah. Assuming everybody just leaves without issue.
Yep.
And
I think before Selma says anything, I'll actually have the courage to look at her and be like, is it more blackmail or is it the pay that's keeping me around?
Oh wait, I need her to be in the room for the screen.
Thank you.
The door sort of closes, and just for your awareness, Asham is sort of like now on sentry duty at the door in this moment.
I would expect no less.
And she says, not blackmail, but a peace offering, perhaps. As we discussed a few months ago, I am aware of some of the difficulties you face. As you can imagine, I need my associates to be able to work with some impunity. She starts to unravel a kind of like piece of like a sort of parcel that was sort of in the corner of the room, and she ends up pulling out this sort of like it's sort of like a dark black cloak that has, it's similar to the one that you're wearing already. It has sort of a blue trim on it and has sort of like, not stars in the sense that Mouse would recognize, but it sort of has like filigree that is sort of like little embroiderings of sort of an abstract dotted pattern throughout it. And she sort of unrolls it and walks up to you and hands it to you.
I'll take it into my hands as I'm feeling it out. I don't know if I could tell if it's magical, but I'll just, as I'm looking over the fabric, I'll say, seems like you're just taking a tragic backstory and just trying to make it as profitable as you can. I'll put the cloak on.
She sort of like clenches her teeth and says, "Think on this before you betray me again. You live because killing you would be a headache. This is a peace offering to ensure that there are no further incidents. This will not cure you of your condition, but the pain of the daylight and of the Citadel's glow should be tolerable while you're wearing this." When's the last time you've seen the sun?
Years. Not since that day.
She sort of looks at you and says, "Well, consider it a gift that you'll see it once again." And she opens the door to lead you out.
Thank you. And without saying another word, conflicting thoughts running through my head, I will leave, head down, not looking at Asham, and exit.
I may be so bold. As you exit the building, you might turn and look and see what looks to be just a part of the wall melt and fade away, revealing Rikella standing there with an exaggerated, expression up to the door. Wordlessly, he walks away.
God, I want to know what's under that mask. I'll go the opposite direction.
As the sort of vision recollects within the room, and it's just sort of Asham and Selny. Selny looks at Asham and says, "We're good?" And Asham just sort of nods and says, and doesn't say anything, and Selny responds by saying, "Kill them if you have to. We'll find others. But ideally, this group works out." And Asham just sort of nods in recognition or agreement as the vision starts to pick up steam. The vapor of the blue room starts to fill into like a dense cloud. And you all sort of shake off a sort of a weird dream. If everybody can make Constitution saving throws for me.
Not my strong suit. Oh. Good roll. Lucky roll.
Not so great.
Okay. Clax, Drada, and Mouse, you are temporarily poisoned. Not to the degree that I'm going to suggest that it matters too much, but it's just sort of describing how, it's less of the condition poisoned and more just how you feel wretched. And it seems to be kind of in your throat, lungs, and brain, just sort of a throbbing sensation. And Alua sort of, she seems sort of unaffected by this, but sort of just opens her eyes to acknowledge everybody.
Oh, anybody else feeling like crap?
I have a slight headache, but I mean, I thought I would feel worse.
Is this what a hangover is?
Nope. I've had plenty of those. Not quite.
Okay. Okay.
Feel fine. You guys want to get some food?
Yes. All right. Do we compare notes here? Yeah, I want food. Let's get food. Then we compare notes.
Perhaps Aloa says, perhaps the rapier would just be a safe place to reconvene. Unless you wish to discuss it some other time. No, we should discuss now.
I agree.
Yeah, that was a lot of information all at once.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? The thing with the mask? What was that?
I don't fucking know. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yo, first question I have. Do I recognize the name of the Dragonborn?
Roll a history check. I'm also going to say, I'm going to say, Flint, roll a Arcana check. And you're not,
So, like-
again, you're not poisoned by rules. It's just sort of.
Oh, got you. All right, well, not that it would have mattered.
Okay, were the Dragonborn and Selny, like, were they a thing? Is anyone picking up those vibes?
They were the only ones to walk in together.
I didn't get the impression they're a thing, but they're definitely acquaintances. And if he was dressed very opulently, so he probably runs in the noble circles.
I'll say Flint with a 15 Arcana, just sort of rewinding to the question, what was with the mask? You could tell that there was some sort of illusion magic with a 15, but you can't really discern what it was.
It almost seemed like they were all dressed elegantly to a certain degree.
Yeah. They're all connected.
I'm
They're
actually
all
going to give you.
presumably making decent money.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give you advantage on the history check. Not trying to just give you free information, but it is your hometown where the
Gotcha.
Dragonborn are from. So, okay, you don't know
Nope.
anything.
It was a 19 rolled to a 3. It was a 20 it rolled to a 2. And I think the animations do that on purpose, but man, it hurts.
I was trying to come up with in my head how I would like give you an extra +4 from my
Yes, it's
whatever.
a 7 now.
yeah, but I was like, nope, I'm not gonna bother.
Yeah.
Ayla, do you know how long ago that meeting took place?
She thinks about it for a moment and says, when my people identified her interest in this building, as she just sort of like raises her arm around here, it was perhaps 2 seasons ago.
Hey, Lua, would you happen to know that Brinstriana?
Not all elves know each other.
Well, I thought, based on what we talked about last time, or that she filled us in on, I didn't think elves were, like, there's a ton of them. And, and she's been around for a very long time, she said, so.
That's fair.
The name rings a bell, but I've never met her, and I don't think I caught her last name. We tend to... a lot of our family histories are tied to their last names.
Brigella.
Just, I guess, do we have any rough idea for how common each of the different like races are? I think it's come up mildly now, and especially with like kind of the lore at the end of last session, but
I would say elves are certainly less common, but not as rare as like Minotaur or Dragonborns or Dragonborn. Dragonborn, you've only really seen a couple, but you've seen Klax, you've seen Nal, and you've seen Tazar, who is the undead skeleton from like the first few games. But there's not many Dragonborn who leave Ildre, and Minotaurs, you know, I mean, we're not talking about Minotaurs right now, but I would say elves are pretty uncommon. Gnomes, who you've also seen, you've seen a number of halflings, and so the difference between gnomes and halflings can be hard to mistake sometimes if you don't ask them, but
Flint is offended.
For those who aren't in the know.
In the gnome.
Oh, shut up.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Jacob, I want to give you the space to run the conversation because you're leaving in a few minutes. If there's anything you want to sort of ask or talk about.
Yeah. Okay, so it seems like they're really all over the map. Like, how do we want to go about prioritizing finding folks?
Well, Aventur's auction does land at most major cities. We could use that as a traveling caravan thing and kind of take that on our way to the different places.
We know where a carnival is? Hey, Lua?
She just says, I am not really known for my leisure time.
Mouse, it looks like you want to say something.
I was just going to ask what our goal is. Are we trying to shut down their operation? And if so, do we need to shut down all parts of it?
Elua sort of speaks up and says, anything that is done must be done with absolute discretion. Selnivon's threats are not empty. If you cross her and she knows it, and if it affects her and her business, you will be in significant danger.
It also sounded like most of those people were somewhat disposable, that getting rid of anyone or any of them might not be enough to close it down anyway.
At least not for a long period of time.
No, but I mean, our ultimate, the one goal is to disrupt the operation, and the other is to find our favorite Miss Vaughn. This feels like a good place of starting. I mean, disrupting her shit feels like a good way to draw her out.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Master Frex seems like they don't really want to be doing this. That might be a good person to try to start with, to try to, if they'll actually like talk to us or work with us, or maybe
Did we get a
provide us some
location?
I don't think so for Master Cracks. The big ones were the Carnival, and then the Flowers, Flame Bridge, and then the Stratos Wilds at some town. That's where they're doing the distribution work, or the
I'm propitious.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
You did get from Master Cracks that they seem to be in the caravan / airship industry, so that would be a lead. But
he'll be taking the product to Propitious, who's luxury traders. The Brinstriana is in Flame Bridge. the Grasian fellow was just nearby in Stratus Wilds, and then it looked like what was it?
You have to go, Jacob.
I should thank y'all. See y'all.
I'll fill you in
Good luck.
on stuff.
Strata, why are you asleep right now?
Poison.
Oh, yeah.
They're just stealthing.
Aloa says, I don't know what Klax has shared with you, but my hope is disrupting the operation is part of the goal of mine, at least. My hope is to be able to reclaim the traditions of my people, which does mean having an operation of my own at the end of the day. Part of that could be one step of that could be to disrupt the operation or to somehow convert it, though these characters are questionable and I don't know if I would rely on them myself.
What is... So you want an operation, I'm assuming predominantly for the blue flowers and your people's sort of traditions?
Yes, the blue flowers are a more targeted form of our rituals. The red flowers are used as well, but more for, frankly, entertainment.
So, just trying to... Presumably we want to disrupt this operation because it is hurting people.
Yes.
And things. Your intent would be to control this and only supply it to people who are going to use it for entertainment purposes that are not harmful?
The red flowers are not my priority, but the ecosystem of the blue flowers is connected in a way that, frankly, I would need both situations taken care of. We can't upend one without the other. What happens with the red flowers afterwards is not of concern to me, but...
So if we go and we disrupt this operation, we're going to have big targets on our back. So, like, I'm all for this. Anything I can do to piss that wonderful individual off is what I'd love to do. But, like, how do we go about doing this? Are you guys on board with this? Do you guys want to do it?
I think if this is about restoring the practices and rituals of a culture, that's certainly something that I think is valuable. I wonder then, though, if we can do that without dismantling the whole operation.
Seems like there's at least a couple members that didn't strike me as definitively evil and having, you know, the worst intentions. I think it sounded like Master Krex and maybe Brinstriana, Bryn. Yeah, they maybe weren't the worst and could be convinced to, you know, convert over.
That could be a starting point. We have a location for
Brinstriana, at least. Just not a solid one for Krex.
I'm guessing we would need some sort of arrangement in place to get, you know, continue getting those blue flowers. Seems like she was also interested in them and studying them. So I think if maybe we had something in place, we could convince her to potentially help us out.
Kevin, where in Foundry can I find the list of stops on the auction tour?
Yes, I believe it is an item. In the top right corner, there's a briefcase, and then there's a item called Brandy Auction Dates.
Thank you.
Aloa speaks up and says, I'm curious about this Brinstriana's intentions to expand the use of the flowers. Clearly she is a perhaps younger elf who doesn't follow the ways that I follow. But if you believe she can be converted, I'm of course willing to entertain that idea.
I think that should be our number one priority. Anyone we go after, we should try to convince them not to keep following under Miss Vaughn. However, I do think that might be a large task with her influence and her threats.
Keep in mind, too, if you ever reveal yourselves to somebody and they maybe in an attempt to play both sides, they tell Miss Vaughn about your attempt, that you do draw attention to yourself. I do not say that flippantly. I'm not suggesting that people should be killed because there's no other option. Converting people would be of interest to me, but I sure hope that you trust them when you do that.
It's definitely a big task.
Did anyone else get the impression that Master Krex was also maybe a vampire?
Yeah. Like a special cloak at the end. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah. It also does make me wonder, does the light coming off of the thing in the middle of town like hurt vampires, not just prevent, Drata from going invisible?
Good, it might be a radiant light. That might affect vampires. Maybe that's why there aren't any here? Do we know of any vampires here?
I don't think we've run into any so
Yeah,
far.
you have not run into any.
I think she said something about the light of the Citadel. But I don't know.
Just for simplicity's sake, Drata's just sort of says, "You all keep talking. I'm gonna go get some food and bring it back. I need some air."
Don't be seen.
You look outside. It's dark outside at this point. You know that that's not going to be a problem.
So while we were in the dream for a period of time, it's something that's going to ping you later, but the know your enemy, just kind of getting a feel for, just generic, like stronger, higher level than us or not, really is the biggest one.
I am going to ask, because of the magical nature of the dream state, sort of clouding your vision, so to speak. I'm going to ask you to roll. I'm going to ask you to roll an insight check for 2 people in particular that you're curious about. Like who could you have spent your because that was like maybe, or we'll say 3 people because it was about a 30-minute vision, I think.
Well, Asham, for sure.
Mm.
I think for 2, Master Cracks. Even though it might be on our side, I want to understand what we're getting into. If that's going to be the first path we're going down, or do I take that back? Nope. So stick with Asham. And I'll go with the Brigella, sorry. And who do I want for the last one? I think I'll go with Garnet.
Okay. Let's do it in. We'll do Asham, Brigella, Garnet in that order. If you just want to roll 3 times.
Can I give you enhance ability? If I know.
No. Well, this was
during the.
Dang.
It's
Okay.
happening during
Fair.
the vision. Yeah.
Fair.
Woo! Yeah. Yep.
I like that you tried.
10 was going to be the DC, so I will give you
Asham.
know your enemy on Asham.
Asham, sorry.
Smart. Right-hand man, we're probably going to deal with her.
Are there any particular? Because I think you choose things. Now.
Correct. So for this, I was just trying to keep it simple, but I'll do scroll to it real quick. There it is. Let's do. Oh no. Armor class higher or lower than mine.
Your armor is.
I have an 18.
So I will say I don't have character sheets for all these villains.
Yeah.
Okay. You observed Asham in full plate armor.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that answers that question.
Woo!
Total.
Full plate armor and sort of like a great sword. So you'd imagine it to be the same armor class.
Yep. So long as it's not enchant or anything. Okay. Total class levels.
I mean higher, yeah. So because I would convert it to monster CR in a way that would translate, and it would be higher. She could take you easily.
I thought there was a specific number of them I could do. I thought it was like 2 or 3, but I'll just. You can learn information compared to your. Let me look it up in the full text. Here we go.
Oh, is it all of these?
Nope, it's 2. There it is.
Oh, it's 2.
It's
yeah.
2.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so just those 2.
Yep. That's it.
Okay, so armor class same, class levels or a monster equivalent higher.
Okay. I'll relate to the group that just from observing, Sham looks like she would be a interesting battle. And actually, the more I think about it, I think I get kind of excited for that kind of fight.
You don't think she could take you?
Oh no, but it's gonna be fun.
She did look mighty. Saw that great sword in there.
Clax, when do you get wings?
So it's funny you should mention that. That is actually a pretty rare genetic trait. It doesn't happen from a...
Yeah, I know I've already given you advantage on the history check, but calling that out, give me a.
Come on, Clax.
Give me a. It's still in the realm of history. I'm gonna say one more roll of history.
Yep. Hey guys, just I don't think I've rolled above a 10 yet today, so let's temper expectations.
I will give you inspiration. Good thing I did.
That's advantage.
It's a D8.
Plus 1.
Oh, D8. I better roll an 8. No, that's D10. Sorry, 1 second.
And making the note about wings be a flash of
sure. It's
genius.
a flash of genius.
Or whatever.
Great, great. It's up to a 9. Great, we're 3 plus 2 plus 4. Mouse, do you have anything?
Man.
Not that I'm using on this.
Fair.
Your own.
Whew, I'm rolling well
You got
tonight.
Wheeler Woe or something? Or I don't know what you got today.
I had wheel, but I need to double check. I don't remember if this
If
was.
that's an add or a minus.
Well, I don't. we haven't rested since I used them all
Oh, yeah.
Did you use them
I'm
all?
out of
For
wheelbarrow.
Trotta.
Okay.
Yeah. But even with a 9, despite all this, it is you, Klax, know that you have never seen another dragonborn with wings. You don't know what that means, if that's like a genetic trait or something else. But you know, like everybody in your family, everybody that you've ever spoken with or sort of been in the company of back home, which was a while ago, but that concept is very alien to you. But everything else was clearly dragonborn.
Yeah. So yeah, Flint, I've never seen. Like, I think I've heard rumors of stories of something, but I can't tie it back to where I've heard it from before. But it's definitely not something I've ever seen.
Maybe you can when you're older.
That would be nice.
Alua says, I suppose if it is so rare, maybe somebody from back home would know.
I guess I could attempt to reach out. We'll see.
That's fair. Maybe he's more known in the Dragonborn community or something. Seems like a number of these people have, you know, some sort of business or means that we could, you know, potentially track them down. You know, a carnival or a shipping company or a bunch of, you know, merchants or a trade organization. Those things seem like things where we could identify these people and figure out where they are.
I will say, for clarity as a DM, not everything is going to exist through the Ventus Guild Federation. Some things might just be like...
Dang it.
You just look it up in the guild directory, like, oh, that's the carnival. It's like, not necessarily. Some businesses just exist. like bread is not a guild.
Could be.
Could be. Aloa just sort of speaks up and says, well, I am of course grateful. I feel like my place is probably to stay in Consonus and keep tabs on the local happenings and to do the work that I do. But I am eager to be involved in whatever way makes sense.
So with that, how do we reach you? Because I reach in my pack and pull out the empty inkwell and feather pen, and I don't have any more of this, but I don't know if there's a easier way to get a hold of you in the future.
She sort of just thinks for a moment and says, I'm afraid I'm not flush with coin such that I can refill that for you, but
Neither are we anymore.
I have a room under the rapier. The barkeep knows me and is able to house me, but that would be the only way that I really know.
Okay. At least we know where to go to if we want to try and get a hold of you. So, back to the situation at hand. You know, do we want to pursue one of these avenues? Do we want to try kicking the hornet's nest? Do you want to keep an eye on the situation from a distance?
Well, I don't know that this is a problem we can... Like, this seems like a well-organized group, and they've been doing this for 2 years, 2
Years.
seasons. 2 seasons is
Like half a year.
Half a year. Okay.
And you expect, like, 2 seasons is when they had this meeting, and it sounded like everybody in that room knew each other and that the operation had been building up to that point. So chances are the people who were in that room had been selected in advance of that and had sort of been given the funding and infrastructure to do what they need to do. So chances are the operation as a whole has existed a little bit longer than that, but this was sort of the kickoff meeting.
I don't think it's a problem we can solve overnight, but we should start asking around. I know we need to go talk to the airship guy.
Then wait one.
Where's my to-do list?
You keep it.
We talking about Avendir's?
Yeah.
ship?
Yeah.
It's Captain Willow is the captain.
Captain Willow. Yeah, we need to talk to him. He might be able to tell us something about, other, airship transportation groups or something. Would maybe have heard of this Crex guy or Garnet. And, we'll see Avendir here in a bit. We could ask him about some of these names.
Yeah, he might know them in a more political and Richie Rich sense, since he had to kind of play along in those arenas for a little bit. They might even be at the auction, to be honest. They have enough money to be involved in this operation. They might be involved in the auction.
Very true. Well, well, thinking back, let's go back to when we were at the Tournament of Tales, and they were having their little Selny was having their little meeting with the mayor of the town and stuff. Do you think that might be somebody to put some pressure on too? Bolly Brightbeard, if I remember correctly.
I feel like we have to be careful.
Yeah, we don't want to poke too much.
Yeah.
Especially not in Avendir's kind of backyard.
Yeah.
I do feel like we need to have follow-up discussions with Brightbeard at some point. I feel like that guy owes us some cash. I feel like we made him quite a bit of money. But that's a whole other thing.
I'll just be not present while you guys have that conversation.
Aloy sort of just chimes in and says, not to pry, but I don't think you've quite told me about your recent encounter with Selny. She sort of looks towards you, Clax.
Yeah, forgive me. My companion here is the champion of the Tournament of Tales.
Hi.
And regretfully, while we were there, Miss Vaughn recognized me and made our lives a little difficult at the time. Nothing been major, but definitely she still knows who I am, and she has no qualms about making my life a little difficult.
She had a little influence on my performance, pretty sure, but other than that, she didn't really encounter us firsthand.
She nods and sort of says, the fact that you're still alive must indicate that she doesn't perceive you as a threat at the moment.
I would agree with that statement. I think to her, I'm just an annoyance that is out of the way.
Or
I
a
don't think
plaything. She says that not with intent to disrespect you, but just sort of like, oh, that Vaughn. She's just sort of a jerk.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she does view me as a plaything, because then hopefully that means she'll be careless and slip up. I am going to bring that bitch down.
She sort of just like clenches her teeth and sort of recognizing the tension from that statement.
All right, guys, do we want to go sleep on it? All I know is Straw's not back with food soon. I'm going to have to go find some myself. Do we want to sleep on it and figure out what we're doing? Because it's nighttime already. We still got at least a 3-hour hike back.
Yeah, let's go find Drada.
Elua?
You all have a place to stay then?
Yeah, we're good on place to stay.
Well, you know where to find me, and I will think on this more myself, and if I come to any revelations, I will seek you out.
Thank you. Thank you for everything so far. This is... I feel there's a chance we can do something. So I'm excited.
Just be careful. She's not a pushover, and I find it strange that you encountered her at all in the wilds, because it's rare that she leaves, and even rarer that she leaves in such a way that she wouldn't be surrounded by an entourage.
Well, I think that, to me, it ties in with everything we just saw today. I think she's making contacts and drumming up support or buyers through a network would be my... Again, I don't know, but it would make sense, because you don't want to bring an entourage, because then you have to explain to everybody why you're going out to the middle of nowhere to talk to people. Well, not middle of nowhere, but, you know, leaving safe confines of your estate.
Do you know how exactly is the Jade Mask involved in all this? Your
She sort of like
contact that we got the blue flower from seemed to be involved with them.
She sort of cocks her head at you with a sort of like blank expression and says, I am not too familiar with the Jade Mask, but if Francis set you up with one, chances are they were a broker who went through Garnet. Or maybe not the first broker, maybe they have a chain, I'm not sure.
Okay.
She sort of just like looks at everybody and stands up, and
I'll stand up as well.
Drada comes in this sort of moment and gives you guys like a basket full of food, various meats and breads and things like that.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. We're off then?
Yeah.
Yep. I think we got some thinking to do.
Sorry, my headphones died for a second there. Drada says, I'll catch up with you in a bit. I just want to ask Alo a few questions.
Okay.
Sure thing.
Everything good?
Yeah.
Okay. As I get up, I'm just going to walk over to Lua and give her, like, warrior's handshake and just really kind of meet eyes and, like, thank you. And then go walk away.
She kind of just tilts her head. I don't think she goes in for, like, the handshake per se. She's not, like, a masculine figure in that way, but you put an arm on her shoulder and she'll just sort of, like, nod respectfully towards you.
That work?
And you all leave. Drada stays behind so that I can allow Jacob some time to ask any questions that they may want to. Oops, wrong map. And are you just all heading back to the Tiern family estate?
Yes.
We're getting there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
What's up, Flint? What are you thinking?
Nothing really. Just probably want to be, as we leave here, at least a little stealthy until we're a little ways away.
Agreed. Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not doing this to be a jerk, but stealthy does imply that you're moving slower, and it's already a 4-hour hike back to...
I don't think we're trying to be stealthy like the whole way. I think it's just
Okay.
getting away from here and
Getting out of the residential
confident that
district.
we're
Yeah.
not being followed or something like that, and then fine. We just don't want to be associated with that place.
Okay. If you could give me a group stealth roll, why not?
Oh yeah. The way I've been rolling. What could possibly go wrong with this? Wow.
It's actually
Wow.
actually incredible. I think your average roll has been like
About a 6
4
today.
So, yeah.
Maybe 8.
We're so stealthy.
I believe that this is just what happens after going through a hallucinogenic
Oh.
experience.
And I'm sorry, I do have disadvantage on my stealth roll.
Oh, from heavy
Oh.
armor? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So
right. I do too.
come on, lower. Well.
You know, it couldn't get too much
Ooh.
better.
Well, the only
Right.
only good roll amongst us is now a 4.
Right. Well,
Mm.
you guys open the door to depart, and it's sort of like you're greeted by the nighttime air, and the door, like, you don't manage to, like, you, instead of holding the door open, you kind of just let it swing behind you, and it just sort of bangs on the wall. And it's kind of a moment where it's like you stepped in a pot, and
Like, Clax gotta hold the door.
you hear somebody from a house that must be like 2 houses away say, "It's nighttime. We're sleeping."
All right, let's go. Clank, 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 clank.
Is there anything you talk about on the way back?
I mean, it's just weighing our options.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
here's the
most-
thing. I'm going after her at some point.
Yeah. I agree with wanting to go after her. I just don't know that it can be like our sole focus at the moment. I feel like we've got stuff with Avendir and other things, and we should, while we've got time here, do some recon and think about what, the best options for us are going to be.
I have access to one more legend lore spell, so I could cast it on one of the people that we saw in the room.
I'm going to interrupt as a DM just to say, legend lore is somebody of legendary importance. You can't just like Google search
Got it.
some person.
Do.
Yeah.
Retract.
It doesn't have to be a legendary importance, but somebody who's like somebody or something that is of a worldly nature.
Unfortunately, realizing now, I maybe could have done that for the flower, but I didn't have enough information to begin with. I just digress.
Yeah, it worked out.
Well, it's a long walk home. Drada does eventually catch up and will have had some time to spend with Alua. Would you guys like to take watches on a night like tonight?
I think we should. Just after a conversation like that, being in my family home, I think I would feel more comfortable if
Alright.
we took watches.
Okay. It's a little early, but I think I want to take a break first.
Yeah, actually, if I may interject just in general, since we started a little bit early, I
Yeah.
do have some things I need to get done before I go to bed. So
Yeah, we're gonna end at 9:30, or earlier if you need be. But we'll start with the break. So
Yep.
we'll be back in.
that might be
5-ish.
just Might just be a minute longer. Need to get some food, so I'll be as quick as I can.
No problem. Okay, we are back. So we will, for ease, as I always do when there's a player missing, Drada will take a solo watch. But between the rest of you, how would you like to do watches?
I think that conversation maybe I'm telling this to the group as we're walking, like getting ready for bed. I think the conversation maybe just a little I guess I don't really know if any of those adversaries are here. So I think I'll take the first watch.
I can take the first watch with you.
Appreciated.
Guess I'll do second.
I will join you.
And Drada will close it out. So let's go ahead and start the first watch. If Klax and Aesop could just roll some perception rolls for me. Hey, we actually see a good roll. Hey.
Hey.
On the roll, that doesn't matter.
Does it? Does it not matter?
Well, no, because we rolled a 20. Like,
fair. By the time you guys arrive home, and I'm imagining having eaten the food that Drada brought, just sort of as road snacks, it's already a little late at night. Not to the risk of exhaustion or whatnot, but the walk there was quiet, and you sort of stand vigil, thinking over the night's activities. Go ahead.
I think to verify my natural 20, I'll just kind of like, I'm hoping that every time we come back to the house that my family or any other Minotaur will be back, and I think I'm disappointed every single time. So it's a mixture of looking out for creepy crawlies anything coming from that conversation coming after us, and any Minotaurs that might be walking home late at night.
The DM is silent because there's nothing that you notice. Unfortunately.
Fair.
Face up. What's the next move with your parents? I know they're on a mission. I know they're sounds like a little overdue.
Well, unfortunately, the next move for them would be to get back home, but they must be really something must be happening at the conflict they are currently overseeing, so that has either forced them to stay or they need to stay for whatever reason. It's happened before, but I was hoping that they would be back when I got here.
And they wouldn't tell you, if I remember correctly. They didn't tell you anything of where this conflict is at.
The guy did a little bit. I forgot his name. The admin officer back at the
Noru
at the Horns. They said they're on a completely different island, a desert island, to be more factual. There's a conflict there happening between two different elemental groups that they're kind of making sure either it doesn't spill onto the main island or get any worse.
Is that something you want to pursue to see if we can find out where it is?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I'm worried that if I pursue, I would make things harder for them, something else to worry about in their fights and their conflict. And yes, obviously to see my parents. I don't know how I would be able to help, but I would love to see them nonetheless. Part of me thinks that they'll just do what they need to do and they'll get back eventually, but they're already overdue, so the thoughts tend to linger.
Well, the reason I ask is I definitely want to do something about this bond situation, but I also want to make sure that your family's probably a little more important than my vengeance. So I just wanted to make sure if, if I recommend to steer the group down this path, that, you've had a chance to speak up and do anything you want.
I don't think there's anything I can do about my parents being away than what I've already have done, besides actually just going out and seeing where they are. Honestly, your mission does sound very scary. We're facing against an operation of seemingly very skilled criminals with no idea what they're actually capable of doing. However, it would benefit an entire people, seems like, if we actually tried to help Ayula.
Well, I think it would definitely... I think it would help. But, I don't know. We definitely need to think on it. And the worst part is, though, it's not a clear-cut path. It's not just, go here, do this. Oh, it'd be so much easier if I could just kill her.
She live in the Marble Walls?
Oh, yeah.
I've never been able to get there. No, me and my friends tried to sneak in there one time, pretending to be artisans and people of high rank and power in the city, and that, of course, didn't work. We're just college kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's you're not just wandering in there.
No.
They do a pretty good job.
I'd say just to add some flavor to that, from both the guard perspective and the college kid perspective, like, the unifiers man the gates. There's no real getting in without any permission at all, and that's one of the 3 guards forces that are hovering over the Marble Walls. There's also the guards, which would be like Clax and his squad, as well as the sort of like the Sky Sentinels, who are the sort of like air security around the skyport. So getting in there is it's not Fort Knox, but it is college kids are not getting in.
Can't say we didn't try. Those were the good old days.
Good old days. Wasn't that like a year ago for you?
Yeah.
Say, I think I'm too young to use it. Then you're really too young to use that phrase. All right.
Seems like a forever ago with all the shenanigans we've been getting ourselves involved in, though.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. Don't we still have some books buried in the ground somewhere?
I think so, and we never went back and got it. There's probably now someone with a whole slew of necromantic spells in their belt, but
I just hope a little kid didn't find it.
Hopefully not.
Right. And then I'll just kind of sit on the front porch and enjoy the night air till the watch is over.
I'll join you.
No. With a natural 20, you're positive that you feel safe in this moment. You're also unfortunately positive that nobody's home when it comes to your neighbors.
Right. At least I can sleep a little bit better.
And the second watch begins of Mouse and Flint, if you could roll a perception check.
Yeah.
My headset keeps going in and out, so if I miss something, I'm sorry. But please go ahead.
So, we've spent some time together now, and the more I think about it, the more confused I am about how Clax got wrapped up in the Selmy stuff. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah, I think he was trying to essentially do what we're trying to do now. Like, he was like a guard and figured out this Lady Vaughn was up to no good and tried to prove it, and maybe just wasn't quite as capable as he is now, or the group of us is now, and got in trouble over it.
Seems like a weird thing to stumble upon if you're not already involved in bad things. But
I mean, there's a lot of corrupt guards. He could have been corrupt. I don't think so, though. Doesn't seem bright enough.
that's fair. You're from Flamebridge, though, right?
Yeah.
So, do you know the elf woman?
I mean, Flamebridge is a pretty big place. And I wasn't, exactly buying high-end flowers at the time. So, don't imagine that I recognized her.
You can roll a history check. Eric. Slash.
Yeah, no. Never heard of her.
A lot of cities around here.
Yeah, Flamebridge is a big place. It's it's not the capital, but it's one of the bigger cities. It's growing pretty quick. I don't know. I don't know how we try and go after these people. I feel like we have so many things to do right now. Gotta deal with Lady Vaughn and guard the, brandy, sell our own brandy, just sitting on.
Dragon?
Yeah, gotta catch a sky dragon. I need to make my armor. I gotta make Klax's armor. Got all this, other inventions I've got ideas for. I don't know where to start.
I mean, only boring people get bored. So I think this is a sign of success.
Only boring people get bored. I guess I agree with that. I think we need your airship. I think we got to get your airship. At least 2 of these people have their own fleet of airships. I think Does yours have any cannons?
No.
I think we need cannons.
Huh. We may have to think about that. It might require significant reconstruction.
Fair. I should get eyes on your airship at some point.
Next time we're in
Vent.
Vent. It's like wherever we started.
I think that's more or less it. Flynn probably works on something for the remainder of the watch.
Okay. You all wake up to a glorious morning. Let's say the weather is. Feel free to take a long rest, of course. The weather, general temperature is starting to turn towards fall. No big surprise. You do find, as I'm just turning on random weather effects, that it's raining. Very light rain that is sort of rare, but not unheard of above the clouds. As you give NPC Drada Gift of Alacrity.
Do indeed. We got wheel today.
Oh yeah. You guys did sleep in pretty late because you arrived pretty late, and it is that some of you are woken up a little. Those of you at the end of the watch, or at the end of watch 3, are sort of. Oh, actually, let's rewind for just a second to the third watch, because I just remembered this. At some point, the door starts to open early in the morning before everybody else wakes up, and Flint and Mouse, you see Kelby, the housekeeper, comes in, just sort of like nods at you all.
Hi there.
Hey. Not to be awkward or anything, but I'm only really paid up till tomorrow.
What were they paying you?
Like 5 gold a week.
I mean, I'm guessing that Aesop would want you to continue taking care of the place.
Should I talk to him about it?
If you see him sometime, here's another 5 gold, in case you don't see him. And
she seems grateful. Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Yeah, happy to keep working. I'll get started. And she just
Flint notices that his coin pouch is looking very light at the moment.
These coins are sort of, I guess, useful. They don't make any sense to me, but I'm also kind of running out of them. How do we get more?
Well, I think we get paid soon. Where's my calendar? Oh, we get paid in like 2 days. We get lots of them.
How are we gonna? This is me talking out of character. How do we get that payment if we're not with Avendir?
I think we go to like a bank.
Yeah, the contract with Avendir, the patron contract, talks about withdrawing money from the Ventus treasury. Well, so first of all, I'll say everybody wakes up. Kelby's out and about cleaning up, but everybody's here for this conversation. But Flint, just roll me a history check really quick.
Good morning, Kelby. I really appreciate you cleaning the house while my parents are away.
Of course. Yeah, history check with 8. You don't actually know much about the Ventus treasury. Surely it exists, but you don't really know.
I will at some point quietly nudge Aesop and be like, "Hey, I paid Kelby for another week, but like, however long your parents pay her for is kind of up.
Oh.
So I didn't know how long you wanted to keep her on, so I just did 1 week. But
you know what? I'll do, Kelby. I'll pay you for another week, and then after the 2 weeks are over, you're good. You're good to move on. The Tyrion family really appreciates your help.
Oh, I do several of the houses here, though, so should I do theirs still?
Oh,
it may occur to Flint at this point that 5 gold is a lot to take care of one house.
Yeah, it felt a little high, but I was not going to argue it.
And it connects now that she's probably contracted for several of the homes in the area, if not a great deal of them.
Give it 2 more weeks. I'll give her 5 gold, and if you don't hear from me after the 2 weeks are over, then you're free to move on to other endeavors.
The way you said that does not offer her much reassurance, but she does seem grateful to have a job for at least 2 more weeks. And she says, of course. Just let me know.
Presumably, all the Minotaurs will be back by then, and
Sure.
then they can kind of follow up with.
I'm going to get back to cleaning.
Aesop, is there a point at which we should go check on your parents? Like if they're not back in another week or another 2 weeks or another month, like
Funny enough, Clax asked me that last night. I'm worried about disrupting their activities, but at the same time, I really want to see them. I don't know if I'll be a good, healthy distraction or a bad distraction for them while they're doing their job, or they need help. I have no idea. And it kind of makes me nervous thinking about it. The fact that they still aren't back since we've been here, but
Drada kind of interrupts and says, well, I do have a letter of introduction to a certain airship if it's on a different island.
Yeah, but I don't want to take us away from everything else that's been happening. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on around here. I feel like my parents is just one of many conflicts, to be honest.
I mean, we need to go meet the pilot of the airship anyways. Maybe we ask how long it would take to fly over there, and if that's even something they could do. And if it's only like a couple of days to fly there and back, maybe we go check it out while we're waiting for Avendir to show up. Assuming, Willow is game to take us there.
When does his first trip to Consonance for the auction begin? I'm trying to find the calendar.
Fall 7, or the 7th of fall.
That's the first auction date. It doesn't I'm not suggesting that it's impossible. I'm simply just explaining the format of the auction dates. Those are the dates of the auctions themselves, but not necessarily the date that Avendir would arrive in those towns. He may, in certain legs of the trip, he may arrive a day or two early.
And today's the 1st of fall?
Today is 2 days away from the 1st of fall.
It is the 90th of summer.
Yes.
So we've got like 9 days until the auction.
I guess it doesn't hurt to ask the captain how long it would take to get over to that island.
Yeah.
All right.
The captain loves me. I'm sure if it's doable, Captain Willow will definitely want to take us over there.
Captain Willow loves you?
Yeah, remember? We made good friends.
No. When did this happen?
You've been on the ship, like, very briefly.
I met Captain Willow, tipped too well, and definitely sent a hurried message that I don't think was well received.
Yeah, out of character. Mouse is a little naive in this moment. But you guys did meet Captain Willow when you were rushing to deliver Tazar's soul gem to Avendir and Vind early on.
I don't think Willow loved us. I think he was maybe a little frustrated by us interfering with his timetable. But maybe if, he's just sitting around bored. Start there. Is there anything else that we think we need to do today other than go talk to Captain Willow?
Nothing that I can think of, other than we kind of need to come up with a plan. And I like the idea of going to Captain Willow and seeing if maybe we can go explore this other island in a couple days. Because, like Aesop said, I talked to him about it last night. I just want to make sure that his family's okay.
Before we leave town, we should also officially file our paperwork for the guild.
Oh, right. We should figure out what sort of guild we want.
And just to make sure, they also asked you to sort of select from one of several
Types,
trials.
Right? Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, like if you choose a guild type, and then you had indicated sort of Adventurers Guild territory, like freelancer Adventurers Guild territory, but then they had ran through a list of like, do you want to do a rescue mission? Do you want to do an exploration mission? Do you want to do like a hunting mission? Like they're eager to test you, and we're looking to sort of establish what it is that you wanted to do to sort of prove your worth to Ventus.
We can
Maybe
try.
we could, like...
Oh, I was gonna say we could try rescuing or helping out the recovery squad as our mission.
Yeah. That was exactly what I was going to say. So maybe we can try and double up and see if we can get some sort of mission to go help the recovery squad.
Recover the recovery squad?
Yeah. Or maybe just bring them supplies or something. I don't know.
It would help to know what the like conflict is looking like over there. It would help us kind of navigate through that situation a little bit more if we decide to go to the island.
Maybe we start with talking to Captain Willow, because we also could probably ask him if he knows anything about like a traveling carnival or some different airship merchant groups or something.
Seems like our best bet.
Yeah. Okay.
So is the airfield in the marble wall though?
It is.
I mean, we have a letter.
And Drado would perhaps remember this, but it was explained when the letter was handed to Drado that by showing the letter of introduction at the gates, along with Avendir's patron contract, that you would grant you escort to the Skyfield. Or the Skyport, rather.
Cool, let's go see this fancy marble district.
No.
Clax, have you been in the marble walls before?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a rotation. I think it was 2.5 years ago, or 2 years ago. I can't remember exact rotation, but it's actually pretty cake guard duty, because the unifiers do everything. So it's one of those things when you get that rotation, you kind of take advantage of it. Other than that, it's you kind of keep your head down, stay out of the way. You know, it's not like I'm intimately familiar with the place or know a lot of it's there, because you literally just do your watch and get out of there. They don't want you hanging around. They don't want you do anything. You're just there as a presence.
All right. Let's go check it out.
Alrighty. You all head towards the gates of the marble wall and are met with the presence of unifiers immediately. Sort of the gold, it's probably not real gold, but sort of gold colored full plate armor with the helmets covering them, and the sort of emblazoned starburst symbol that's on the front of their armor, and one of them, who has a sort of like feminine voice underneath all the armor, sort of says, "What's your business?"
We request, as I'm pulling out both documents, we request access to the airfield to meet Captain Willow, the introduction letter here, and our patron contract here, to verify our patron sent us to meet him.
Their presence is sort of designed to be intimidating, but once you present, like, it's designed to be a wall, you know, a wall of people and guards. they're not sort of pointing weapons at you or anything, but there is sort of like a nod of recognition. Like this is sort of standard practice for them to receive documentation like this. And she reaches for what you're presenting her and says, "One moment." And she seems to step into the walls and sort of turns a corner towards like a little gatehouse. After a few minutes, the armored figure returns and sort of hands you back the documents. You do notice that the letter of introduction now has a stamp of the golden seal of the unifiers on it. And hands it to you and says, "You are free to enter." And as you're sort of like approaching the threshold of the gate, you see that several unifiers, 4 of them, start to flank you and escort you sort of in a cage formation almost.
Are we allowed to like come back in if we need to, like come and go? Like,
you're permitted to meet with Captain Willow. If you
Yes.
need to return, Captain Willow will need to provide documentation to give you entry.
okay, so this won't get us back in to talk to Willow a second time.
No.
Gotcha.
It's sort of, she gives a firm no, not a "I'm mad at you" no. And you guys are led through the streets of the marble walls, which Aesop is, I mean, everybody except for Klax, it's your first time seeing it, but Aesop, I feel like, probably is the person who's wondered about it the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Mouse has seen it from above, I will say.
I think I've been to the like airport.
Yeah. And you've been under armed escort out of the walls before as well.
Oh, you crashed here?
No. We crashed in Vind. After that, I spent a few months working for another lord in Vind, Lord Brownmore, who had an airship business. I worked aboard ships for a little bit.
Okay.
The buildings that you see are quite magnificent. They are kind of like built with very smooth sandstone. A lot of them have like towers or sort of ornamentation to them. A lot of them are sort of like marvelous architecture. There's not a whole lot of people walking the city streets. There is people, but they always seem to have a job. These are folks who are going from point A to point B, looking busy in this space. You're not necessarily seeing like nobility or folks who are dressed to the nines, sort of walking around in. There's no like entourages or celebrity sightings or anything like that. This is just a kind of like high-end busy neighborhood with richly appointed buildings and mansions. Several of the buildings seem too large to be sort of estates, and you're not sure if that means that they're just really big estates or if that means that they are government buildings or noble buildings of some kind. As you sort of cross into one of the side streets, you do see that there are a couple old buildings here. One of them is a sort of like ruined old stone tower, which I think I mentioned in your backstory, Klax, that you would recognize as the old Skyport, one of the old Skyports. And then you also cross by what looks like an ancient Colosseum sort of building that seems to have, like, the way it presents as sort of like a monument almost, or an old form of architecture that has clearly been redone in the time that that the rest of this area of the marble walls has popped up. If there's anything I'd like to talk about as you're sort of walking through and seeing the marvels.
I'll go up
There are
to
things-
I'll go up to Clax and be like, the only thing I've heard about the marble walls is that there's supposed to be like a really amazing restaurant called the Tranquility. Have you seen it? Do you know what kind of food they serve? Or do you have no idea what I'm talking about?
DM, do you want me to roll for this one?
Uh,
Or just go
no,
with it?
roll with advantage. Roll history with advantage.
Okay. Let's see if we can roll above a 5. 3. Okay.
Hey.
Alright, yeah, I don't need the advantage. Look at that. Redeeming myself now.
It's food based. This seems on brand.
Well,
Yeah.
it's food based, but Clax, you've never gotten in. There's no way you could afford it. Let me pull up my notes really quick. So Clax, you know, this is the fanciest of the fancy restaurants. Everything you've heard about it is sort of like, because you've had to. This is a safe area of the neighborhood, but the people who come to Tranquility are there to spend money, and where people spend money, extra guards are put on duty just in case. A reservation at Tranquility can take, like, you need at least 2 weeks to get in. It costs 100 gold per person for like a 17-course meal. It's a very, very strict dress code. Every time you've seen people come in, they're wearing outfits that must themselves cost over 100 gold, 200, 300 gold each. And generally it's designed for like it's a pretty small restaurant. It's sort of like maybe for 10 people tops per sitting, but that dining experience, whenever you had to guard it, can last like 4 hours. The location of it, you would know to be sort of nestled in this sort of like lake waterfall area. There is like this waterfall that is just sort of like creating the serene look that is the namesake of it, and that water sort of drifts off the side of the island and just sort of dissipates into clouds. So it's a very fancy place. Pretty I mean, you can tell me what Clax feels about it, because it's a little over the top, but there's certainly the envy of many a person.
So, Aesop, you really want to go to that place?
I mean, it just sounds so magnificent, doesn't it?
Sure, if you like a bunch of very stuffy people sitting in a very small room eating food that is, if you thought that flour was expensive, I mean, I've heard horror stories about how expensive that place is. So I love food, and you know, I think somebody told me once it was a 17-course meal. I don't mean to be rude, but I watched the people walking in there. There's no way any of them are eating a 3 real course meal. So you know, each of these courses are like a minuscule bite. You're paying a lot of. I don't think you want to eat there. I think you want to try someplace else.
I've lived here almost my entire life, and this restaurant has almost been like it's been almost like a fever dream. Like, you only hear about it in hush hush of people who have supposedly been in there, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my like childhood dream to dine at this place.
Maybe our guild should be a super high-end restaurant, and we'll just hire the tabaxi to work the back and make their chili.
It's all chili. It's a chili restaurant.
Yeah, but like 17 courses of chili. And we'll get a couple of palm trees, we'll make it like a tiki bar theme.
Yeah, I'm not seeing this, Flint. Like, I just not seeing it.
I think if we charge 100 gold a plate, like, people, you know, some high-end people will come just to prove a point.
But like, why would we make food expensive just to make it expensive?
So we make money?
Bread makes money.
Not enough money. Do you guys think Lady Vaughn lives around here?
Oh, the Vaughn estate is pointing the general direction.
Didn't occur to me that Clax would know where it is, but it does make sense actually. It is here. You have not really been inside.
You ain't getting in that place.
You guys think Avendir has a place in here somewhere? I guess he mostly lives in Horizon.
You all continue your escort towards the Consonance Skyport. Those of you who are less, I would say this is probably a Flint, Drada, Aesop realization. Those of you who are less familiar with Skyports or less familiar with Consonance, in addition to sort of the Unifier escort, you do see occasionally like a flying like a patrol of flying devices. This I didn't actually put this in your notes, Clax, but these are one of the types of Sky Sentinels that are I would say the guards refer to them as teapots, and the reason for that is because they're flying on like a little orb that has a cannon on the front of it. It is a cannon that fires nets at people to sort of get them from running away. I do have artwork for that. Oh wait, I have to show it to you. So it's sort of like a floating ball that they're sort of sitting atop, and you sort of see these flying overhead, generally in the vicinity of the Skyport. This is something that is more upscale security that is more unique to Consonance, but other forms of Sky Sentinels would be like hiring people who can normally fly either through magic or for if they have wings of some kind. But you sort of, I think Flint looks up and sees like this feat of engineering soaring above you.
Definitely got to figure out how those work. Are these like they move quickly?
Yeah. Not like it's a 50-foot fly speed.
Okay. I think of airships as being somewhat slow and mostly like similar to a regular ship dealing with like wind and whatnot to do most of their forward movement.
Yeah.
Whereas these seem fast and maneuverable.
Unlike other skyports, like the one that you were at in Vind, it sort of has this gate around it that people will check you in and check you out, but because of the nature of the whole marble walls having that element of it, you're able to sort of just enter the base of this tower. And you look up and you do see that there is a ship docked that you've seen before, the Azure Phoenix, that has this sort of like mounted blue painted bird sort of at the front of the ship. And as you step into the tower, it seems to have there's an earth elemental at the bottom who is like pulling a crank, or like pushing a crank in order to pull a platform up that you guys stand on, and you are elevated up the tower. The unifiers are still with you at this point.
Just about to ask.
Are there any other airships docked here?
You did not see any presently. I would say you probably just saw one flying away. And the nature of that is like, you know, kind of like an airport. The runway, so to speak, ships will come in and out one at a time. So you do well. I don't have anything prepared, but I will say there probably is a few other ships that are docked here. They're sort of like nondescript ships. It is a pretty big central skyport now that I think about it. But you all, as I punch my microphone, you all lift up to a level where there's an open archway and a plank, not a plank, a wooden, or excuse me, a stone platform that leads to the front of the ship. And this is where the unifiers sort of halt. They are not themselves stepping onto the ship, but they are protecting or watching from the threshold at which you would step onto the ship. And this is something I've been excited to share for some time. I'll bring you to the ship itself.
Ooh.
Oh.
One of the fun things I find about this, just talking about Foundry, is that it is multi-leveled. So, for example, just for giving you a tutorial on controls, if you step up these stairs, it'll bring you up to the next level automatically.
Wow!
Don't want you just freely exploring. So, if you could come back to, but just sort of demoing the control mechanism. The ship does have several layers and levels to it. First things first, you are the map I've made does not have the walkway, but the
You cut out, Kevin.
Oh, sorry. The map does not have the walkway, but it is still there. You didn't just float on over to the ship. And you hear a door open from above and to the right, and out from sort of over the edge. Oh, he's hidden. You see Captain Willow, the sort of Harangon rabbit folk person, look over the edge and say, "Oh, wasn't expecting company?"
Sorry, should have messaged first.
I think I remember you all. And you see him glance towards the unifiers, sort of just like seeking confirmation that you guys are supposed to be here. And says, well, what can I do for you? He steps down to sort of greet you.
Aventure thought it would be good for us to come meet with you.
Did he now?
Yeah. We will likely be kind of escorting Avendir as he goes through some of these auctions in different cities, providing a little additional protection.
He looks at you a little disbelievingly, in a way that somebody kind of just looks down on you a little bit and says, "Well, Avendir didn't tell me about this."
We're sort of newer patron, or well, he's newly our patron, I guess I should say. And
Drada kind of nudges Aesop, just whispers in your ear, like, "We have a letter."
Oh, hi. Yes, I was reading notes. Here's the letter given to us by Avendir to introduce ourselves to you. Aesop, by the way, hi.
He just sort of nods and takes it and sort of unrolls it. And he sort of you see him scan it carefully and furrow his eyes a bit. And he sort of just takes a little bit longer reading it than you would expect. It's not a long message at all.
Is everything okay?
Yes, it's fine. Let me get the crew. They're not all here, but he shouts, "Moira, bring people in. We've got company."
Well, we didn't mean to necessarily disrupt activities or anything.
Willow bundles the letter back up and hands it to Aesop and says, Admiral says we gotta introduce you to the crew. And you see a figure sort of steps out from the door, just sort of at the call of the word Moira. There's this sort of mean-looking human woman who just sort of has sort of like a swashbuckler like sort of attire to her, and she sort of like eyes you all cautiously, kind of putting a grin on her face, and then looks at Willow, who kind of like gives the go on now look, and then she sort of darts back into the ship to go sort of find people.
Was that Moira?
Yes, that's my first mate. Do not cross her. She will crush you.
As she comes back out upon that comment, I'm going to be observing her very closely.
Okay. A moment goes by, the door opens again, and you see a sort of like tired looking Air Genasi man sort of steps out and looks at you all and says, "We've got company, Captain." And Captain Willow just sort of responds, "Yes, these are... What do you call yourselves?"
The Left Stars.
These are the Left Stars. They are working with Avendir, so we may see them around. And the individual speaks up and says, "Oh, I am Phelan. I'm the engineer of the Azure Phoenix. I keep it flying. That's about it."
Oh, I'd love to pick your brain sometime, see how these things work.
He kind of turns to the captain. Roll a persuasion check. So this is sort of targeted at Willow. Willow says, "Another time. Maybe when Avendir's around."
Sure.
Phelan sort of shrugs and says, "Well, I mean, if that time comes, find me." He looks like he's about to start explaining. He's like, "It's all quite simple, actually." And then Willow's like, "No, another time." Get back to work. And he's like, "All right." And he sort of retreats in as another figure steps out. A Tabaxi woman who... Oh, wait. She's not on the right deck. Steps out with like a sort of like amazingly warm, friendly face, themed after my actual physical cat.
Oh.
She sort of has like overalls on and just sort of a bright smile and says, "Captain, who do I have the pleasure of meeting?" And she actually comes up to like hug the nearest person.
I think that would be Flint.
Yep.
That's a hugging a cat.
Forward and opens her arms, seeing
Oh.
about to be a hug.
She's like, "Oh, you guys are so small." And Willow speaks up and says, "Don't get too friendly, Blossoms. They are just stopping by." And she says, "You can't tell me to not be too friendly. Of course they're welcome." You all look at her, and she sort of like has a frying pan strapped to her belt like a weapon. And she sort of looks over all of you and says, "Are they staying for lunch?" And Willow says, "I don't think that's necessary."
I think lunch sounds delicious. We would all get to know ourselves a little bit more as we are all working under Avendir. I think that would be beneficial.
Blossoms like immediately builds on and is like, "Oh, I've listen. It's not too much trouble. We should be hospitable to our guests, Captain." And he's just like, roll a persuasion with advantage. You don't need it because you're gonna roll so high, but
I'll still do it. Hey, there's a 3. And then there's 20.
Yeah. He's like, "I can stay for lunch and then back to work." And she just seems to see like so over the moon with that and says, anybody she's like, "Anything that you can't eat?" And she's sort of like doing an account.
Vegetarian, vegan.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm on it. I'll be quick. She says to Willow, and then she just sort of darts back downstairs.
I just lean over to Ace and say, I like that one.
She's very sweet.
At some point, Phelan has made himself disappear as well. Another figure that you see is familiar to you. Outside from the door, you see peeking out a familiar purple dragonborn woman. And
Hey, no!
No!
oh, hey. And Willow says, "So these are the ones that you sort of stole our ship from?" And she says, "Yes, they paid me." And then she sort of turns to you and says, and well, frankly, there was a job opening, so they kept me aboard."
Good to see you now.
I'm glad you're doing well.
Yeah, all is well. Certainly better than well, you know those people that it was
Group B.
Heroes Academy folks. So you guys are still together then?
Yes,
So
we
far.
are.
Nala sort of like comes in to sort of greet you all, and Moira sort of steps back out and sort of like pulls Captain Willow aside as Nala's sort of talking to you, and says, "Staying out of trouble?"
Well,
Never. But we're doing good.
if you ever want some other work, let us know.
Well, I'm gainfully employed now, so...
So what they got you doing on the ship?
Well, apparently they had another Dragonborn who's no longer on the crew. So they say, and they just needed an extra hand. So currently I've been talking to, you guys know Gris?
Yep.
Been sort of trying to help with some of the supply chain things, keeping the ship stocked and up to date. They're trying to train me on the ballistas, and she sort of points to the front of the ship and says, like, not that they say that they need them very often, but you never know. Might need to man the guns someday.
Odd question out of nowhere for you, now. Because I didn't really get to know. Were you born in Ildre as well?
She kind of like narrows her eyes a little bit and says, "Yeah."
Do you remember any old fairy tales as a kid, or anything along those lines about Dragonborn with actual wings? Something's nagging in the back of my head, but I can't quite place it. Way better than I rolled.
Yeah. I should have GM rolled that. I'm going to ask you to roll persuasion.
Perfect.
Should have GM rolled that just so you didn't necessarily know the result, but
All good.
I'd say she wears it on her face pretty clearly, like a sort of
for me.
Yeah, she wears it on her face pretty plainly, like a furrowed brow, and says, "Wings."
Yeah, like I was trying to tell these guys some stories from when I was growing up, and there was a fable, a story, something that's nagging me in the back of my head. And I can't remember where to place it, but something about dragonborn with wings, not dragons, but dragonborn like us. But I can't figure out where I've heard or seen or heard of any of that before.
She sort of considers how to answer the question and says, I don't know I don't have any names for you, but there was one who had, I mean, I'm just going to be frank with you. I'm not welcome back in town because they sort of banished me. He had wings. That's
and you actually know of somebody who has wings?
I mean, I've seen it. Yeah, it's.
Okay.
I mean, they say it's a. I mean, in the small town that I grew up with in the city, there was sort of the people who took advantage of my family and I, and they sort of declared themselves as sort of being pure, like a pure dragonborn, and then the wings were part of that show. But they bought out our neighborhood and turned it into a little castle of some kind, and said we weren't welcome back. So,
Well,
Did you do something to anger this person, or just they bought your place and told you never to come back?
I was 5. I don't think I did anything.
You gave me a lot to think about.
Yeah, she kind of pauses in a way that, like, she's wearing this clearly on her face. There's sort of a little bit of like, I don't want to talk about it anymore, coming off of her as she sort of changes the conversation and says, but don't know if that's helpful, but you're here now, so you're.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I was just thinking of it from a nursery rhyme or thing, but I guess it is real. Interesting. Wouldn't happen to have a name for them, would you?
Afraid not.
Okay.
As you're sort of in this huddle, you all you're all paying quite a bit of attention to Null, and it sort of doesn't dawn on you until until they're out of view a little bit. But at some point, Moira, Willow, and Drada have walked up the deck together. Like Drada got dragged away for a moment.
What do you think's up with that, guys?
Oh, I didn't think that Drada would know of them.
I mean, maybe Drada likes boats.
Give me some like perception rolls after the fact to sort of like how much of it you caught out of the corner of your eye.
I'll make one.
I also already clicked it.
Guess we're all doing it.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Okay, I would say Mouse and Flint. the approach towards it sort of you were listening to Nell and you sort of were distracted, but as you sort of like catch in your periphery that Willow was sort of waiting at the base of the ship, and Moira had whispered had whispered the word "we need." Sorry, think of the way to say it. Had whispered "you're needed," and then sort of indicated to Willow, and then Drada sort of like just sort of started following. They used this opportunity for now. It almost seems like they used this opportunity for now to distract you almost, but that it's very intentional that they are off on their own right now.
While distracted, I'll like whisper to Clax, I'm like,
You should have asked what scale color that person was. Wasn't garnet red.
Man,
She's still there, but
hey, no. One last. I don't mean to pry, and I'm sure it's a painful topic, but what color was the Dragonborn? The story I had as a kid was red Dragonborn with wings, but
sounds familiar.
Okay. Well, whenever I do make it back to Ildre, because I don't want to say I'm not welcome, but I'm not excited to go back anytime. But if I ever go back, I'll see if you want to go along. See if we can't figure out what's going on with your.
I have no interest to come back. I
Fair enough.
left in search of a job. I found one. They take care of me. I have no loyalty to home. People could have intervened and they didn't. I
Well,
hope things are better for you, though.
on lighter topics, speaking of, your new job here on the ship, how's Captain Willow? I don't think he likes us very much.
He's direct. He expects his crew to be on top of things. But he treats us fairly, paid well. I expect that comes mostly from the Admiral, but
Do you get the impression that he's bored at the moment? I know Avendir's not going to be here for a while. You guys seem just sort of stuck here at port. You think he'd be easy to convince to
like
go out on a short little mission?
Uncomfortably.
She sort of looks at you all and says, she sort of leans in a bit and says, they were happy to get paid when I helped your friend get to Dusklight, but the logistics of that were a little chaotic, and knowing what I know about our schedule, she sort of, when she says that, she has, you haven't necessarily like told her why you're here yet, so she's sort of like hiding. She doesn't really know what to say and what not to say. But when I think about our schedule, I imagine that we're probably looking to load some cargo sometime late next week. And so it kind of depends on how far away you're talking.
Yeah.
Just like, for example, the desert island, the Savannah Island. That
She looks at you. She looks at you with no recognition of what you're talking about.
Oh,
How far is it?
would Aesop have an idea? Because I checked in my notes, and I remember I wrote down that Aesop's been there before.
If you come over to the Ventus map, I had indicated that it's.
Ventus world map.
I'd indicated that it's the island that's being pointed to right now. So.
Okay. So
and,
like 3 days.
Yeah. For context, airships, unless they are boosted in some way, travel at the same the same speed as walking. So they're slower, but they run 24/7. So they take up the same amount of time. So yeah, you would estimate 3 days if you were assuming that you were getting dropped off at the edge of the island.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 days there, 3 days back. That's really cutting it tight.
Yeah. It's it's okay. It's fine.
She looks.
You don't have to go.
I mean, she looks at you and says, "I mean, if you make the case for it, and if the Admiral says it's okay, I'm sure we're not doing too much for the next week until the cargo gets loaded."
I think I've just become so uncomfortable. Just like, yeah, we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Let's see what Willow says. Is there any good way to get on Willow's good side? Should we
don't get on his bad side? Do what he says.
Alright.
Money talks.
Well, we ain't got any of that right now.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of that.
I still have 20.
Which ones?
A mix.
Great.
This is never gonna get old. Blossoms, the tabaxi, comes up and says, lunch is ready.
Oh, I need some food. Okay.
Debating where would she bring you all?
Is it hot up here for anyone else, or is it just me? Am I the only one sweating? No? Alright.
Aesop, you seem to get hot a lot.
Just nervous.
About? Nervous.
I don't really like asking people for help, and I feel like we're just gonna go out of the way to check on my parents. That might make it a worse situation. I don't know.
She's gonna lead you all up the stairs and into the captain's quarters. For better or for worse. So I have difficulty moving people in this sort of multi-layered thing, so you kind of have to go up the stairs yourselves.
Okay.
I'll move Aesop. But she comes in here in this little room beneath the steering wheel.
Beneath the steering wheel.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oops.
Hello. Still on a cute little.
And sort of you see it's sort of this is a somewhat intimate space, but nonetheless she has sort of a hot stew that has been brought out, and then sort of a side bowl of meat chunks, and sort of directs you that sort of it's a vegetable stew with optional meat, and hands out some bowls and large wooden spoons. It seems like pretty modest fare, but this is not restaurant quality food necessarily, but nonetheless you all eat, and it is spicy. not Constitution save spicy, but it has that tabaxi kick that you got out of the chili.
I'm eating it up.
Yeah. And it's
like Mother Mary, yes, ma'am.
Now joins you as well, and you're all just sort of like sitting in this space. And at some point shortly after you step in, as you're sort of like collecting your bowl and whatnot, Willow comes back and sort of says, Blossoms, there are many other places that you could have set them up other than my bedroom. And she says, oh, I just thought it would make them feel so welcome. I thought that they would
It gets really comfy in here.
Well, fine. Make yourselves at home.
We appreciate your hospitality.
And there's sort of like, there's not a whole lot of chairs here, so some of it is sort of sitting on the ground, and just sort of like making a corner of this space yours. Willow is not eating at this moment. He's sort of like just sort of frazzled by everybody being in this space, and sort of says, well, have you gotten to know each other, or how much longer are you going to be here?
Well, actually, I think we're here to get to know you more than anything.
Well, I am the captain of the Azure Phoenix, have been for some time. I work with our, I suppose, shared patron, and have carried his cargo for quite some time. You intend to work with us, then I hope you will make yourselves useful. Otherwise, well, we'll see.
Is there, if we do end up on board, is there anything we should know? Any supplies we should bring? Any particular ways we can make ourselves useful?
Depends on what use you have. What are your talents? Supplies we've got taken care of.
Bit of a tinkerer. I can build stuff and things. Probably learn from Moira.
Phelan? Yeah.
Yeah, I could probably learn from Phelan to help out there.
Sure. Could always use an extra hand to monitor things, make sure that nothing goes wrong when he needs to sleep.
For me, I'm just going to be wherever you need physical labor. I'm not going to pretend to have any skills. So if you need somebody to crack somebody's head, I got that. But other than that, if you need help while we're flying, just tell me where to move stuff, pick stuff up, haul stuff.
I have a decent amount of experience in airship navigation.
He sort of like looks down towards you and says, is that so?
I mean, yeah.
Who'd you work for?
Lord Brownmore out of Vend.
Name of the ship?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that actually it's been named, so if you just want to come up with one.
Yes.
The Elsa's Procession.
Nice.
Spell that out or type it out for me. So
Totally not an opera song.
Okay. Is this okay? I've only heard the name Elsa in reference to Frozen, so I don't know if that's. I'm assuming that's not true.
Nope.
He says, "Right, seen it a couple times. How long? How long did you serve?"
About 6 months, but I was navigating before that, on a smaller vessel.
Very well. I'm sure we can make use of you.
I could provide some fun entertainment. If y'all want like group night, I could just provide some fun entertainment with my handy dandy flute, and I could create some really pretty images. to make it all better.
So you're a freeloader. Okay. Well,
Wow.
there's always one.
Whew,
You are
act like that
so-
doesn't hurt. I'm gonna act like that doesn't hurt. Okay.
You'd be surprised how useful Aesop could be.
Well, if I need somebody to dance and sing, I'll let you know. But
Why are you so ornery?
getting work done. Why are
Speaking of getting work done, you a little bored here in Consonance for the next week?
He doesn't like me.
You don't like anybody.
Yeah.
He sort of says, "Why?"
Well, how familiar are you with the recovery squad?
You don't know his familiarity, except that he turns his gaze from looking at you to looking at Aesop. Says, "Familiar."
Well, I mean, they do pretty good work, throughout the realm, which seems to align with, Avendir's goals. He seems to want to make, Ventus a better place. And they've been off on a mission for a while now. Nobody seems to have heard from them. And it's not that far away. We thought maybe we should go check on them.
It's sort of at this point that you're saying this that you see sort of squeezing in Drada and Moira are coming in. Phelan you haven't seen. Phelan just seems to be perhaps hanging out somewhere else, but they sort of wander in just sort of like nonchalantly. Drada kind of gives you all just sort of like a nondescript look and then starts getting some food, filling a bowl with stew. But in the middle of this conversation, Captain Willow just sort of looks over and acknowledges that they come and turns back towards you and says, "You have a job? Or are you just asking?"
My parents are on the Savannah Island, and they have not been heard from, and should have reported back to the Two Horns, the main administrative building. I'm trying to find the frickin' map.
It's the horns, yeah. Oh, I think Art has died.
He's frozen.
Sad day.
Oh no. Hello, are you back?
My computer crashed.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Well, you could just use audio for now. It's fine.
Yeah, I had too many tabs open. But essentially, they haven't reported back, and they were tasked to go build a base on the Savannah Island and supply it and report back, and they have not been heard from or seen from since. It's a 3-day journey, and I would really appreciate being able to see my parents again, who do in fact run the Recovery Squad organization.
He kind of, there's like a sharp breath inward in the middle of your speech. Nothing that gives you pause. You continue, and he just sort of lets out an exhale and says, "If Avendir signs off, then, and if we leave," he's sort of doing mental math in his head. "If Avendir signs off, and if we leave tonight, I think we can make that happen. Do you have a way of contacting him?"
Ooh.
What was it?
I don't know if you heard with switching over.
Yeah, I'm currently trying to I think my Discord just got all jacked up on my computer. I had to fix that.
Okay,
But-
he said that if Avendir signs off and if you have a way to contact him, you could leave tonight at the earliest, or at the latest, frankly.
I'll look at everyone else and be like, "Don't we have the book to
the book, right?"
So I'll pull out the book, and as I'm like,
I'll interrupt you, and it's sort of like there's a tension in the air that Blossoms sort of sees and says, "Well, it sounds like you guys are staying for dessert while we figure this out. I'll be right back."
Thank you, Blossoms.
And she trundles off as you pull out the book from your coat and begin writing.
Hey, it's Aesop. We're currently here with Captain Willow. We are requesting to use his services and crew to travel to the Savannah Island 3-day journey to find out the details and whereabouts of the recovery squad, as they have not reported back in. Is this okay? Or is the Azure Phoenix available to use to travel? Love, Aesop.
As you finish, I think this is the first time you've written a message in this book, actually.
Yes.
You had received one from Avendir before, but as you write, trailing your script, there is like a red glow that sort of like the ink that you're writing with turns red before it turns black again. It's almost like it's being sort of like transmitted as you're writing it. Eventually the text fades to black, and you know that the message has been delivered, but you don't know if Avendir's looking at the book right now.
Right.
So you close it and sort of set it, I imagine, set it down, waiting for a red glow from the gem. And Willow says, "Well, he should be, I imagine, arriving back home soon, so if we hear from him and if he signs off, then I'll see what I can do. I don't have the full crew at the moment because Gris, Avendir, and his children are generally helping with some of the security duties of the ship, but so you may all be tasked with being some extra hands on this journey. And then just to be clear, are you looking to be dropped off? Because I don't know if we can hang around.
I think that probably would be best, as the recovery squad has their own airship. So if we finish things up there, hopefully we would then be able to take the ship back home.
You can tell that the tension dispels off of his face a little bit. He's still stern, but he's like, "Good. Well, let's
You don't want to stick around even just for a day? Might be some, fun adventure there.
I have a job to do."
Jeez.
On that note, I'll be back. And he steps out as sort of he doesn't like brush shoulders with Blossoms, but you see Blossoms sort of come back in as he's leaving with like some kind of warm very fudgy brownie that she sort of like puts a little towel on the table so that it doesn't like burn the surface, and it seems like fresh out of the oven. You don't know when she put it on, but the room is suddenly filled with like this like very chocolatey aroma. And she says, Well, that was tense. I hope everything is doing just fine in here. Here's a little bit of recovery for you. She just sort of like starts doiling out brownies for everyone. This brownie as well has a bit of a spice to it, like a chocolate spice. It's a little bit more subdued in the within the chocolate, but it is there.
Is he always this tense?
You get used to it, and it's useful sometimes. He knows his job. You can always trust the captain. Clax, you had previously said you were sort of looking Moira up and down, and she's sort of been in this room ever since coming back in with Drada. She has not really been eating food. She's just been sort of like keeping an eye on everybody, not in a posturing way, but just sort of sizing. You get the sense that she's sizing you guys up as well. But what would you like to know about her with Know Your Enemy?
Yeah. Let's see. Hit points higher or lower than mine?
Your hit points are
34.
34?
74.
Oh, 74. Okay, I was like, you have to have higher than 34. Higher.
Ooh, interesting.
Just giving a little bit of description, because I never want you to waste armor class without describing their armor, at least.
Okay.
She seems to be wearing some really finely made leather armor and has sort of like has a shield that she's not holding in her hand. It's sort of like a buckler a very small buckler that is strapped to her wrist or straps to her forearm. And then at her side, she has a sword, like a hook sword. It's not quite a scimitar. It has almost like a fish hook element to it. And it's pretty like intimidating looking. And she looks pretty battle ready, but you have another question to ask.
I think I want to go total class levels.
1 second. I think she is probably on par with you.
Interesting. And she had more hit points than me. Interesting.
Or wait, hold on. I'm just gonna say she's CR6.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. It's hard to like translate sometimes.
All good.
I think it might be slightly higher.
Gotcha.
If not, maybe a couple levels higher when you think about it.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to kind of eventually like make eyes and just give a nod, like don't know if she picks up on it or not, but just
there's sort of like you're sizing her up, and there's a moment where she's sizing you up, and she nods.
Usual respect there. All good.
The journal, after about 10 minutes, you see a glow come from the gem.
I'll open up the book.
I also do not have access to Forge. If for some reason it still says that I'm in.
That's fine.
Sorry.
Oh, strange. Okay. No problem. But you open up the book, and the message you receive says, just about to arrive safely in Horizon. This tone that the DM is taking is sort of thinking of words. It is not a pause in writing. It says, I've arrived in Horizon and all is in order. If you can guarantee that you'll do your best to have the ship back by the 6th of fall, then Captain Willow has my blessing, and I will cover the costs. And you see it is sort of signed with Avendir's name, which you think sort of adds a little bit of credibility to it if you were to show the page to Captain Willow.
You said by the
Now-
6th?
Fall 6th, yes.
Now when you say it's signed, is it actually his
It's
Like
Avendir Summer Breeze, sort of in a scripty.
Okay.
Do I notice that? Like, do I see this written down?
It's up to Aesop on like how is the table just open on the book?
I would probably be holding the book, reading it.
Yeah.
Not thinking anyone else needed to see it as
Yeah.
I'm reading the message out loud.
Everybody saw the red gem glow, but Aesop, you're the only person who's read it at the moment.
Well, as I would probably be reading out loud as like the message comes in, because I'm assuming it's like a text that just keeps like forming new words. So I guess we got the approval. Kind of feel bad, a freeloader taking over the ship, but yeah.
Blossoms sort of looks at you and says, "Nobody's a freeloader here. We all do our job."
Well, thank you, Blossom.
What are you like? What do you do?
I can do magic.
Amazing. You're in.
Great.
Maybe you should have led with that with Willow.
Yeah. Now also just sort of says, yeah, Willow won't be a problem. The captain it now looks back at Moira, who sort of crosses her arms at using his first name, and says, the captain will not have a problem with having another magic user on board.
Great.
He prefers just going by the captain. Should not call him Willow.
It's just a little bit of respect to show on the ship. I suppose, seeing that you're so friendly with well, she thinks for a moment. Somebody, I'll say Flint, roll me a persuasion check on something.
Persuasion?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Okay, it's not bad. She says, the captain likes being called captain. The admiral does not like being called admiral.
Yeah, I kind of guessed that. I thought it was a little strange that you all called him Admiral, but
It's the captain tries to maintain that culture. We don't always do it.
Does Avendir have other airships?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm just on this ship.
Okay.
Willow sort of steps in after maybe being gone for 15 minutes. The brownie plate is probably empty at this point, I imagine.
Oh yeah.
Nervous eating.
And sort of says, "You're all still here."
Yeah, we and this time I'll actually put the book on the table so everyone could see it, and I'll put it down for him to read.
He sort of looks it over and says, just sort of reads it once, reads it twice, reads it 3 times, just being very, very precise in absorbing the information on the page, and says, "Well, if you want to fulfill this guarantee, we need to get going." So,
Does anybody need anything before we leave? Or should we just go as soon as the crew's ready?
We need to prepare. Let me get everybody on the crew in order. Come back tonight. We'll set off. And he goes over to the desk in this room and sort of pulls out a piece of paper and starts writing. I don't have it pre-written, but it's functionally a permission slip to get past the unifiers one more time. And it has today's date on it, so it's sort of like a timed entry to come back through the marble walls, and hands it to Calax, who's just nearest by, and says,
Is there anything that would be useful for us to pick up and bring back to the ship, or anything, or do in the meantime?
"Get your shit in order. Don't be late. We're good to go." blossoms can feed us. Supplies are taken care of. I'll notify the crew, and we'll set off.
Sounds great.
Thank you, Captain Willow.
He nods and sort of says, "And if you don't mind,
And we'll be on our way."
Nal sort of like gives Clax, I think, like a respectful, just sort of clap on the shoulder, just like see you soon clap on the shoulder, as you're all exiting. Moira sort of escorts you all back to the fantasy gangplank of whatever, the little stone platform that leaves the ship, and you are greeted by the Unifiers to continue on with your day. But that seems like as good of a place to stop as any. So, yeah, new quest to dis.
I know. I'm so nervous. Lord.
I love it. Love it.
We've all got to go get like those like frilly pirate shirts.
Mm-hmm. I'll get a pirate hat.
No.
Well, we'll see how this journey goes in general. It's not something I've explicitly prepared, but I'm all for it. So we'll get there. So thanks for playing.
We're just gonna check in. They're gonna be fine.
Everything's
and then
fine.
we'll go home.
They're fine.
Just
They're
like-
absolutely fine.
Yeah, in fact, they decided to move there because it's such a paradise.
It's such a fine place.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, Lordy.